your practices to keep in tune with your innate intuition?
Meditation. For me, I have to meditate every day. I think biologically, it's not... Look, I can go for extended periods of time without meditating. I think last week I went 4 days, which was probably the first time in a couple of months where I haven't meditated. But normally I will meditate. I wake up in the morning. I set myself a goal. I always set myself very realistic goals. For me, meditation... look, I'd put it into twofold. I'd say meditation and mindfulness, because you can meditate but not be mindful. And so for me, they are not the same thing. I'll explain the difference based on my perspective and from where I'm coming from. For me, meditation is actually taking the time to engage in a ritual whereby you're actually emptying your mind through either singular focus or body focus. You're either focusing on sensation within the body, you're either focusing on breath within the body, or you're focusing on a mantra, okay, within the body. And it's a singular focus, okay, and it allows you to empty the mind. Now, like everyone else, I get fucking distracted. But one of the things that I've learnt with the practice of meditation and the importance of the ritual of it is understanding that that's normal. It's not unusual. Like, that's the whole point of meditation, is to actually is to become conscious of when you get distracted and then bring yourself back to the observation again. And whether you're observing body, whether you're observing breath, whether you're observing mantra, it's understanding that the whole point of meditation is to become distracted, become conscious of it, and then bring yourself back to observation again. Okay? Then, because here's the thing, I will be sitting there meditating. 10 minutes later, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about fucking Krispy Kremes. Like, or no, actually, the Gold Class Sunday. Like right now, I'm obsessing on Gold Class Sundays. I literally went to Gold Class the other day. I just literally bought a ticket. I spent $42 to eat a $24 sundae in the dark so no one could see me, basically. But I didn't just eat a $24 sundae. I ate 3 sliders, a hot dog, 3 chicken skewers, a large frozen Coke, and 2 sundaes. But anyway, let's not brag.
Wow, that's very different to how you told me earlier.
Yeah, I told you.
Just ate a sundae in the dark.
But so for me, meditation is incredibly important. I don't beat myself up around meditation. I've learnt to love meditation for what it gives me, because it really is one of the absolute most incredible hacks. It's a psychological hack, it's a biological hack, it's a physiological hack, but it's also an intuitive hack. Because the more we meditate, the more conscious we become, and the more in tune we become, the greater access we have to the more coherency between the heart and the brain that we achieve as a result of that alignment and that meditation and that deep presence, the more access to information that we have. And the best part is not only do we get more access, because it's one thing to be able to tune into the radio, but if you can't hear the message that's coming through, then what's the point of having a great sound system? So for me, meditation is knowing how to tune in to the right station. But then clearing the mind is about having quality speakers. Because if you don't have quality speakers, you're not going to hear the messages coming through. And so for me, the meditation will help with that coherence, but the real key is learning empty-mindedness and learning how to have an empty mind and be comfortable with that, because that's where, to me, intuition lives, in an empty mind. And the more empty your mind is, the more able you are to sense what's going on, because you're not distracted by the stream of thoughts or the monkey mind. Now, mindfulness, on the other hand, is when you're just conscious of the things that you're doing every moment. Like right now, I'm very conscious of where my hand placement is. I'm very conscious of where I can feel the soles of my feet. I can feel the tingling. Like, one of the things that I do for me as a mindfulness practice, my hands are constantly buzzing. Like, they have been buzzing since about the age of 3, which means I literally, at any time that I want to tune into my body, the first thing I do is I just go straight to my hands. Like right now, my hands literally feel like, have you ever put your hands in a really cold, like a bucket of ice, and then you pulled it out and they've started tingling? That's what my hands feel like all the time. And so for me, when I meditate, my hands tingle even more and more and more. And it's quite interesting. When I go away from my meditation, my hands stop tingling as much. And so for me, one of my mindfulness practices throughout the day to stay conscious and to stay aware is to tune into my body. The easy go-to for me is my hands. Like, I tune into my hands and immediately I feel present. Okay, the second go-to for me is my breath. And that, to me, my breath is my baseline. And so I know immediately, and you guys would have seen this whenever I'm on stage, if I run up here or if I'm getting into something, all of a sudden I'll start to lose my breath and I'll stop and I'll take a couple of deep breaths just to get myself center before I carry on again. Because for me, like the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system is the indicator of where your baseline is at. Okay, it's the indicator of where your HRV or your heart rate variability is at. So for me, I'm very conscious of my hands, but I'm also very conscious of my breath as well. So that's what I practice during the day, which is, some people would say mindfulness is meditation. I don't believe mindfulness is meditation at all. I think they're very distinct. Okay, you can be, because people say, well, it's, when I wash the dishes, it's like meditating. No, it's actually not. It's just like being conscious that you're washing a dish.
I hear people say that about like playing instruments as well.
Yeah.
Like, I'm almost like not there. For
It's
me,
a form of mindfulness. Like, and again, I don't want to argue the difference between the two, because we could sit here all day and debate it. And I'm not going to say anyone's right or anyone's wrong. But for me, mindfulness is being mindful, okay, in the moments of what you're doing, being mindful of the energy that your body is being producing. Meditation is a practice. Meditation is a ritual. Meditation is a discipline. Okay, what you've got to understand, meditation is it's like a form of study that some people do their entire lives and they still don't understand it. Like, imagine going to university for 36 years and at the end of it you still have to study every day because you know nothing. That's meditation. Meditation is about realizing that no matter how long you do it for, you're still going to be at the very beginning. Does this make sense? You might just get a much greater attention span with the meditations that you have, but you're still, and that's the beginner mind. The beginner mind is knowing that no matter how far you go, you're always going to be at the beginning. And I think that's one of the reasons that most people don't meditate, is because they find it hard, they find it difficult, but they think they should master it, and if they can't master it very quickly, then they give up. And I think that's life. I think a lot of people don't try a lot of stuff because they just find it difficult. And for me, it's interesting. This reminds me of a conversation I had with my first mentor, Peter's son. And he was the first person to help me reassociate what pain meant. Because I remember, after my first business went bad, I had this association that going into business was painful. And he sat down with me after I paid him his $80,000, and he said to me, Kerwin, the challenge that you've got right now is what you think is painful is where you need to go. So you need to stop looking at the things that you want to do as being painful and start looking at what the benefit is in them. And so I literally started to reassociate what pain meant. And rather than seeing pain as being a bad thing, I started seeing pain as actually a good thing. Rather than seeing discomfort as something I wanted to move away from, I started seeing something as discomfort that I had to move towards. Rather than seeing fear as something that was triggering me to, again, run away, I started to train myself, literally train my brain that anytime I felt fear, to go and do it. Anytime I felt discomfort, to go and do it. Anytime I felt pain, to go and do it. And so for me, I literally reprogrammed my relationship with fear. I reprogrammed my relationship with pain. I reprogrammed my relationship with discomfort. But it didn't happen by accident. I didn't just, read a book and then all of a sudden, fear was gone and, I chased and I went into discomfort. I had to consciously go there repeatedly, and while I was there, I had to consciously create new associations. Because for most of us, we've gone to pain, we've gone to discomfort, and we've consciously, or in most cases, unconsciously created associations. So you've been put in an uncomfortable situation, okay, and then you've consciously or unconsciously created associations around that situation, which has determined your relationship with pain. It's determined your relationship with discomfort. It's determined your relationship with fear. And that's why a lot of people will move away from the things they're afraid of. I've literally trained myself to do the things I'm afraid of. So whenever I feel fear, which has got me into a lot of fucking trouble, because you've got to, sometimes fear is practical. And so for me, being an extreme personality, I went from, fear being very impractical to fear being very, practical to the point it was impractical because it was preventing me from doing things, then conquering fear, but then stretching myself so far that my lack of fear was becoming a danger. I share my skydiving story. One of the reasons that I almost killed myself on a couple of occasions when I was skydiving is because I was constantly pushing the boundaries of what would make me afraid. And I was constantly telling myself the thing that I was afraid of is the thing that excited me. And I was literally addicted to the bleeding edge of fear. To me, it was not just about adrenaline. It was about how far can I go and maintain incredibly high levels of composure in such highly stressed, highly fear-driven scenarios and still be cool with it. And that nearly killed me twice just in skydiving. And so, there has got to be a balance, but that balance is acquired through the pursuit of conscious observation of self and the conscious understanding of the relationship that we have with experience. So, good question.
Yeah. I was like, whoa, we're going on a journey of fear. Where's intuition? So it built intuition.
Oh, so it was intuition.
It was all about
Oh,
intuition.
it was about, okay.
That's what to bring it back. So was all those things that you were feeling and experiencing, is that what that search for fear, did that build intuition, all of a sudden, that obsessive nature?
Well, because this started with meditation, didn't it?
No, it's like, well, how do you...
What was the actual question?
The question was like, how do you cultivate your intuition?
Cultivate intuition.
How do you build your intuition?
Well, I did go on a very long... I did go on somewhere, didn't I?
Yeah. But yeah.
To bring it back, I cultivated intuition at a level that is very high through the through practically learning how to deal with... Because let me put it to you this way, and let me explain why I went where I went. Because you got to understand what are the things that compromise intuition. Fear. What else? Stress. What else? Emotion. What else?
Girls.
Girls. The list can go. So for me, the cultivation of intuition was not just through the use of meditation. It was like, how do I maintain very high levels of intuition in all scenarios? Because and it's really understanding what intuition is and what the purpose that intuition serves. Like, intuition was was this gift that Mother Nature gave us as a way to prevent us from doing harm, to prevent us from getting into situations that we weren't consciously aware of. So intuition is this incredible gift, but the challenge is, for most of it, is knowing how to access it in all situations. Because for anyone, who's had experiences where you've had intuitive insights? Okay, and who's walked around sometimes for weeks wondering, where the fuck is my intuition gone? Right. So for me, it's like, how do we maintain a high baseline of intuition? Is by managing emotion, it's by managing fear, by managing pain, by managing the biology, the stress, so that we can maintain a high level of I guess homeostasis within the coherency, so that we're constantly in tune. And when you then overlay that, with practices of mindfulness, and you overlay that with practices of meditation, like, you're unlocking some serious shit. Does this make sense? Like, this is, again, this isn't like beginner level stuff. What I'm giving you is, I can't think of a more advanced strategy to delve into intuition than what I'm telling you right now. But I'm talking about an intuition in all scenarios at a very high level, not just how do I meditate and get good insights. It's like, how do I walk through life in meditation? That to me is like the ultimate.
Yeah, nice. Remove the variables.
Which is kind of interesting, because I used to skydive with a fucking heart rate monitor on. So I used to meditate in free fall, because my goal was to get under 80 beats per minute in free fall, which I did twice. So actually learning how to meditate in free fall is quite an experience.
You're obsessive. So Scott asks, we've made the decision to exit our business. So what are the top 3 tips to gaining the highest sale price?
Number 1, don't fuck it up. Top 3 tips for
getting top sale price.
Top sale price. Number 1, de-risk the business. You've got to make the business is most valuable when it's not key person dependent. So when you have in any business where there is key people that are dependent on the success of that business, 2 things are going to happen. It's going to devalue the business, because it's going to require key personnel in order to operate it. That's why McDonald's franchises, when they were in their peak, were so valuable, because you had this multi-million-dollar franchise that could get run by a 15-year-old. And it's also going to potentially tie you to the exit of the business. So when you sell the business, not only will the business be worth less, but in most cases there'll be a buyout period, whereby you'll still have to be in the business for a certain period of time. And in most cases, the payments are structured to ensure that profit and revenues are maintained at a certain level in order for you to get your full sale price. That might be helpful if you've got a business that can only be sold through vendor finance because of the style and the nature of the business. But number 1 is key person risk. Number 2, put a really good team in place. And again, I know that might sound like it contradicts number 1, but it actually doesn't, because what you're actually selling, you're not just selling the business, you're selling the unit. And by the unit, I mean you're selling all the operators within that. So the stronger the team you have in place, you've got to think of it like an investor, because when you're buying a business, it's much like going in as an investor, but you're taking, instead of buying a portion of the property, instead of buying one apartment, you're buying the whole apartment block. And what an investor looks for, like if you're looking to get top dollar from an investor, what I'm looking for when I'm investing in a business is I'm less concerned about the market, I'm less concerned about the product, but the number 1 thing that I'm most interested in is, guess what? It's the people. Who is the team and what is the culture? And to me, that's where the real value sits, because, in situations where you've got a transaction going on, okay, you want to know that you've got a strong team in place that isn't key person dependent, okay, that can actually manage the exit of the owner, because in most cases, it's just going to go into step number 3, make sure that the business is under management. Because if the business is under management, then you've got a good team. But once the business is under management, you've actually got a going concern. And when you've got a going concern, that's when your business is going to be worth considerably more, because you're not actually selling something that requires someone to come in there and operate it. You're actually selling something that an investor can buy and just park their money in, and it's going to run for them. And now, in order to do that effectively, you're going to make sure that you've got good contracts in place with your team, and make sure that you've got a good team in place and good relationships.
Great question. I'm excited for this next question. So it's from Kylie. It says, what is your vision for the evolution of masculine and feminine consciousness over the next 50 years? And how do you see this impacting our culture and the world at large?
Oh, fuck. Let's start with an easy one, shall we?
Yeah. 60 seconds.
What is I said 60 seconds. Jesus. Look, I think okay, all right. That's a good question. My vision for the evolution of masculine and feminine energy is that we finally enter an era where it's not about equality, and it's about acceptance and understanding that everyone is different, and regardless if someone's got a feminine energy and they're a man, or if they've got a feminine energy and they're a woman, or if they've got a masculine energy and they're a man, the masculine energy and a woman, that people can be accepted for the energy that they bring to the table. I think everyone has the right to be who they are at their own core, but I also think everyone has the right to be who they are and not be judged for that and be accepted for that. So for me, I'm less about masculine, feminine roles and, who should do what roles. And, Alan Pease has some very interesting information about, the different ways that the brain works. And I'm less interested in how the brain works, although it is really helpful information to understand the differences between how the feminine brain works and the masculine brain works. But for me, as I said, it's less about, and when I say it's less about equality, it's not that I think there should be disparity, but it's more about acceptance, and understanding that we are all fundamentally, $5 in a bottle. If you break us down into minerals, and you're going to sell us, we're $5 in a bottle. We're all exactly the same. So to me, it's never been an argument about equality. It's more been an argument around, well, let's just accept, us for who we are. Let's accept that there are some incredibly talented women, okay? Let's accept that there are some incredibly talented men, and let's accept that incredibly talented women should get paid as much as incredibly talented men. Okay, let's not try and create a disparity. Let's just understand that that's how it should, that just should be accepted, and it shouldn't be judged, and there should be no compromise there. But the short version is, I think what the world doesn't need is more discrimination. It just needs more higher level of acceptance and non-judgment.
Love everybody. Good answer.
Thanks, Mum.
Greg Holmson. Sorry if I got that wrong, Greg.
Party on, Greg.
Hey, Kerwin.
Hey, Greg.
Through K-Day, hey, Kerwin,
hey, Greg.
and the social experiment, we've seen you develop an incredible team of high performers. Who is your leader, though?
My team.
The whole one.
The whole team. Like, when you say who is my leader, like I'd even say like who leads me? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, who inspires you?
Or who inspires me?
Who's your guru?
Who's my guru? Who's my role model?
You're the leader for your team.
Yep.
You inspire them.
Yep.
Who do you get your inspiration?
I think that's changed a lot in the last couple of decades. When I think about in days gone by, when I had smaller teams and I was running different types of operations and different types of businesses, I was often having very external inspiration. So the usuals: Richard Branson, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk. I still find all of those characters incredibly inspiring. But what really inspires me most now, and I'm not kidding when I say this, is the actual development of my team. There's nothing, and I think it's kind of rooted in why I do what I do. To me, there's nothing more inspiring than seeing people scratch and open and see their potential. You're a great example of that. Seeing you step into your potential. And so for me, I derive my inspiration from so many places, but I really derive an enormous amount of inspiration from my team. Gary Vaynerchuk has had a huge impact on me as a leader in the social media space, but also as a leader in the empathetic space. Gary has an enormous level of empathy, and he shares that very openly. He's also got an incredibly strong balance between ego and humility, which I admire, respect, and also relate to. But yeah, I'm led by my team. You know, I lead my team and they lead me. And there's no one in my team that, I can't think of any one person in my team that hasn't inspired me in some way, shape or form every day, except for Timmy.